I think one thing I'm really obsessed with and or thinking about right now is the idea of non-dualism and how I can apply that within yo-yoing to explore the nature of materiality and spirituality that I think yo-yoing helps me understand through remembering that I am a system before being an individual, and that my system has intuitive structures that causes it to flow and make sense more than the world around me. And that's very inspiring. I am very excited about that, and I have more ideas on my yo-yoing. I had the main idea about metanoia, or structuring the understanding of the yo-yo meta through metanoia, and explaining that religion has always been a programming of principled reason and separate from instrumentality and simulation. And I also want to talk to children about how democracy fails, but you need the optimism of the will and the pessimism of the intellect to have a non dual point of understanding the world. I want to be somewhat of a hobbyist Adam Curtis for teens. And I want to present something that can be acclaimed for like kids who are raised deeply Republican, so I can be a prophet of faith and not of tribal nature. I think that'll be very well. I feel like kids need to understand things like the axial period from Carl Jaspers, bicameral mind from Julian Jaynes for understanding how do we integrate our understandings of each other through this fragmentation of reality, for our transcendental logic that is actually better than universal reason. I think Marshall McLuhan is very big for understanding how we can talk to kids about the pathways of understanding extension and realizing that you can't have extension as your contingency, but it can be a reason, it can be rational, and it can be a structure, but it can't be the identification or the sole validating point. I want to talk about Rene Girard specifically yo-yoing for the creation of transcendence that comes from yo-yoing through the mimetic value, but you must learn to harmonize the self for that. So a lot of Zen practice, mostly just non-dual practice and transcendental practice, what I'm trying to say within yo-yoing. Um, and I like single causal realizations within saying that everybody realizes how their body works and how they structure reality around them and their areas of influence and stuff. I also want to talk about like some of the negative stuff. So like Hiroki Zuma's database subjectivity and the ideas of living through something that is effectively infinite, and how to not let that stop you from trying your hardest and enjoying it. I specifically do enjoy talking about loneliness, friendship, database habituality. Um, I want to talk about how the internet platforms, how Y2K to 2012 to platform realism and like meta modernity had a great flood effect on a lot of the feelings of creativity and relationships to these things as they became more cybernetic and economically contingent. I need to explain who I am, my interest in yo-yoing, religion, sociology, media studies, and culture, who my heroes are, very specifically my history within yo-yoing. I used to be sponsored. That's something that's really big. I used to be part of Sorry Yo-Yos, and I was part of Tin Yo-Yo. And I think I'm making a company called Apologia, and it's kind of a way to help kids learn that they have to get along with each other and what's like democracy actually is versus the idealism and ideology that we live through that makes us feel constantly unsatisfied. Um, I know I wanted it to be kind of religious, kind of tied to like drawing oblivion and stuff, but I can let it be perennial too, or kind of let it be non-dual. That's my main goal, is to have a non-dual system. And I want to put references to things in certain, like, I want to make tutorials for tricks and then have conversations through the tutorials. So, like, name something about, like, a sci-fi movie. Say it's, like, called Invasion of the Body Snatchers. Explain the concept and hoping they can get some type of metaphor from the yo-yo trick. Um, I really just enjoy the Videodrome cross with Nesdy's Classified to explain the atrocities of the internet and how they're made by the simulation of putting these things together and not taking things apart. And I really want to talk about postmodernism the World War and the creation of the hobby cultures around the world and what the Cold War did to create this idea of hobby as a structure in industry, or the hobby industry. I should talk about the 90s boom too in yo-yoing and like how it affected the entire world, not just America. I want to talk about idealism and the deep history attached to that and explain concepts tied to capitalism and what is democracy, and saying that we must forgive capitalism for so we can structure democracy because everybody's as put together as everybody else. I should make marketing and merch for the yo-yos. I want to make one monometal and one bimetal and one plastic, and that'll be the primary three while teaching the Trinity, kind of the like a lot of other concepts as well. I guess I should make a first video idea for introduction for Apologia and make the logo. But I want to rebuild my identity through vlogging, working out, and yo-yoing, and I want to plan that out for tomorrow. So let's do that.